This is an observation that I have noticed when battling my sensual addiction. I notice it when I give in to this addiction, my brain fog is far worse. I can't even articulate words as good. And this is because seminal fluid goes up into the brain. It is tied to brain fluid. Okay. There are some medical documents that support this. PubMed.gov. Okay. That's one of them. I don't know about any others, but so when you are battling this addiction, you actually, at least to a certain degree, lose some intelligence, cognitive intelligence. And this is why sometimes when you do sensual activities, you are not able to articulate your words as well. And that's what the rulers want. They want to distract you with fornication. And I say that word in regards specifically to sensual activity. But also, honestly, when men are in relationships, they are distracted with relationships. I am not in any way saying that the Bible is true, but I am using examples because these people understood nature. The writer who calls himself the Apostle Paul states, the person who is married is concerned about his wife, but the person who is not married is concerned about the things of God. Now, my God, to me, is nature. The source of all things, the source of freedom and liberty, true freedom and liberty, who does not judge based on what is right or wrong, but what is. That is my God, nature. So Paul's statement about God, to me, is nature. So the person who is succeeding in relationships is concerned about his wife. The other person is concerned about the things of nature. And he understands that the reason he doesn't have a wife, a date, a girlfriend, whatever, is because he too is a product of nature, and so is she. He lacks the genetic components of physical beauty. And so, naturally, without her own awareness, she is repulsed. She has no decision in the matter. So, nature is the hope of many of us, those who are strong. Nature is our hope. The addictions of this world are a product of society. Animals who are domesticated are going to commit sensual acts far more than an animal in nature, simply because animals in nature are always busy doing something. I mean, even in sleep, they're building shelters and stuff, whatever. So they're not going to be constantly doing what we're doing now. We're constantly doing it in society, this sensual activity. In nature, however, it wouldn't be as common. Even when it is done, the animal still has higher testosterone levels than in comparison to the men today. So many men today cannot even afford to do that. Because if you already have a hormonal imbalance, let's say you may have high free testosterone or high total testosterone, one's up and one's low, because testosterone is more than one component. You cannot really afford to be doing that because you'll only get weaker mentally and physically. But the addiction is so strong, the desire to procreate is so strong in a man and men that it's hard to break out of the cycle. And when you are depressed, when you have nothing to do, when you have no hobbies, when you actually have no life, you merely just exist in a cog machine called society, you're going to be disposed to committing that act because you understand there's no meaning in your life. So you develop coping skills that are not healthy when done in excess. If you do it maybe once a day, maybe once a week, maybe. Constantly though, day by day, every day, more than once, it's not healthy. Weakness is the new benefit of society. Weak men benefit the system. It is weak men who help the system keep going. The stronger the man is, or men in general, the less likely that system will function. The destruction of the system is completely dependent on strong, high testosterone men who can render their powers weak and docile by nature's decree. The decree of nature is this, that nature always finds a way. One day, nature will triumph again. Society will collapse, kind of similar to Babylon in Revelation 18. And great was that fall. God says to strip her and render her naked with flames. Something like that. Society, then, is similar to Babylon in the book of Revelation, and it too will collapse. And as one great man once stated, it is better that the system collapses sooner than later, because the more technology advances, the bigger the consequence when it does collapse. This man was locked up in prison, but he understood the truth. He had an IQ of 167, and the reason those in power hated him, it wasn't because of the deeds he committed. It's because they knew that he was right. He was awake, and they were asleep. And they're afraid that one day they're going to have to wake up without their cell phones and video games and face themselves like he did with the authorities. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. He built a cabin in the woods. Great man, hero, a true hero. Not a hero because he did something that's morally good. He's a hero because he did what was necessary. But as Arthur Schopenhauer stated, in a different context, at the expense of all the rest of his life. See, let's talk about Arthur Schopenhauer. He states, with young girls, nature seems to have in view what, in the language of the drama, is called a striking effect. As for a few years, she dowers herself with a wealth of beauty and lavishes herself with a gift of charm, just so she can capture the fancy of some man to such a degree that he is hurried away into taking the honorable care of her. A step for reason that would not have any warrant, if only reason directed man's thoughts. Here's elsewhere nature proceeds with her usual comedy, for just as the female ant, after fecundation, loses her wings in a superfluous, may actually be a danger to the business of breeding, so a woman generally loses her beauty after a few kids, probably for similar reasons. This veneration of women is a product of Christianity and German sentimentality. And this in cause is termed for exalting feeling and instinct above the intellect. But as Arthur Schopenhauer continues, the Asiatics knew better, and they frankly recognized the inferiority of woman. The problem with men today is they allow their phallus to think instead of their brains. Because the drive of a man is so high to reproduce, they do not use the brain properly. And as a consequence, we live in a gynocentric matriarchal countries, more so Western countries than anything else. The destruction of Western countries would be great, but it's not going to happen, at least not now. Maybe in the distant future, when all people, all together, without, it doesn't matter if race, gender, sensuality, get tired and act as equals, or as in Revelation 18 states, for 1 hour, and then Babylon will fall, or society. But honestly, I hope it's sooner than later. The destruction of society is a necessary thing that must occur, and it will one day. For just as in Revelation 19, Jesus comes back after the destruction of Babylon, so nature will triumph again.